Welcome everybody to episode 14 of Future Strong. It's wonderful to have you with us. For those of you listening for the first time, my name's Nikki Garchair and I'm co-founder of Capfinity. Capfinity is a global recruitment and development business that uses our strengths-based methodologies across the employee life cycle. And for the last 12 months, I have had the absolute pleasure of working with Lindsay Pollock, conducting research and also running these series where we discuss all things to do with future talent and how we can support students, recruiters, and early career specialists to really do good work at these challenging times. So this week, we are delighted to be joined by Ray Collins and Maura Quinn from Liberty Mutual. But before we let them introduce themselves, my partner in crime, Lindsay Pollock. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Nikki. Hello, everybody. Good morning, Fred Burke. My name is Lindsay Pollock. I am a career and workplace expert specializing in early career success. I'm the author of 4 books, including my latest, Recalculating, Navigate Your Career Through the Changing World of Work, featuring Nikki Garchair in chapter 2, if you want to go right to her page. I'm delighted to be your co-host today. Nikki, we had a really fun week with a big presentation yesterday with the second phase of our Future Strong research. We had campus recruiters, leaders of associations, career services directors. We had so many people participating in our research. Do you want to talk a little bit about highlights of what we shared yesterday in that presentation?
Yeah, I'd love to. And one of the highlights is I heard Lindsay talk about recalculating and 5 things I can do to recalculate. So it's great to give a presentation and learn something during the presentation. We had 4 big themes that came out and from the research, one being about focusing on students' well-being and sense of mental health. We had one around DE&I, and we're delighted today to be able to really dive into that topic, but the focus on the seriousness of it, and also personalization around technology, and then ending on belonging and how inclusive cultures need to be ones where people can contribute. So it seemed to resonate well. And as I say, we ended with a workshop for recruiters on recalculating and people learnt a lot. So yeah, very good.
Excellent. At the end of the workshop, we gave a little preview of today's LinkedIn Live guests, and Maura Quinn got a whole lot of love in that chat room. She is a celebrity in the early career recruiting space, been in this field a long time and so well respected. Just want to say a quick hello to some other audience members today. Sally, welcome. Thank you for being here. LaToya, I love the Fantastic Four vibes. I totally get it. So without further ado, let's introduce our partners in crime today. Maura, I'd love to ask you first to introduce yourself and then your colleague, Ray. Maura Quinn.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for having us. And Lindsay, I hope I can live up to the superstar status here from what I heard went on yesterday. So good morning, I'm Maura Quinn, and I manage our early career space at Liberty Mutual. I've been at Liberty just a little over 19 years now. It's been an amazing evolution for me personally in the campus recruiting space in our organization. You know, we've gone from the traditional 4-year programs or MBA programs with GPA requirements and specific majors to just such a much more open and inclusive sourcing process, you know, where we'll consider students from lots of emerging sources. So it's been quite the journey. You know, we hire about 1,500 individuals each year, ranging from high school programs through PhD hires. And I know that, you know, in our space now, it's every 6 months we're changing. So we're ready for what's next.
Wonderful. And Ray, would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role?
Yes, thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited. I'm Ravion Collins, and I am a campus recruiter, HBCU program specialist here with Liberty. And I have been with the company for almost 2 years in June. Within the campus division, we have smaller recruiting teams that support different functions, and I'm aligned to the undergraduate development program, which is responsible for the engagement, recruiting, and hiring of college talent for our corporate internship and early talent programs, such as finance, analytics, investments, and other corporate roles around the organization. But a key part of my role is to manage our relationships and strategy with historical Black colleges and universities, also known as HBCUs, which are academic institutions whose mission is to educate and serve African Americans. So partnering with these institutions is another way of how I support the greater campus team with building up a diverse pipeline for our entry-level roles.
Ray, thank you so much for giving that perfect introduction to HBCUs, because for the British audience, not everyone is aware of the acronym. So brilliant to have that clarity. One of the things that Lindsay and I wanted to pose first of all, and it partly comes from some of the reaction to the research that we've been involved in, and we'll go to you first, Maura, from a kind of total talent perspective. But we really noticed that over the last 12 months, the focus for recruiters on DE&I became somewhat serious. And also there is a sense from the students that they're really looking for action and a sense of distance traveled, not just lip service. I'd love your kind of reactions to, and I know that your strategy has been longer than the last 12 months, but I'd just love your views and reaction to how the DE&I strategy is evolving at Liberty Mutual.
Sure, absolutely, Nikki, and such a great question. Quite honestly, I've just been so impressed and inspired by the commitment of our leadership, that they've taken, not just over the last 12 months, but quite honestly, our DEI journey started about 8 years ago at Liberty when we hired our first Chief Diversity and Equity Inclusion Officer. They've made significant improvements in our organization's DEI strategy, as well as most recently being completely transparent with data. And I think we actually have a link to our website that will highlight our aspirational goals. This year, we shared our U.S. demographic employee data and representation goals for women and people of color at all levels in the organization. I think, in the talent acquisition space specifically, we continue to invest in programs and partnerships, that allow us access to more diverse talent. And for us, we're doing that in partnership with our executives, and members of our employee resource groups, so we can create memorable and authentic relationships. Last May, after George Floyd, we had one of our executives working with members of our LEDA ERG, members who identify as Black and allies in our organization, to reach out to student groups, Black student groups that were in the communities, the schools and the communities in which we have offices and where our products are. And he wanted to just have dialogue with them. He wanted to understand, like in the midst of Corona, in the midst of the racial injustice, how could we help as an organization? And those are the things that I'm so proud of, because we are trying to make sure that these are authentic relationships we're building to support students, in their pursuits.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think Lizzie has shared in the comments window directly your web link so they can see that level of commitment. And Latoya has also posted about historically Black colleges so people can see the 105 institutions listed. One of the things that really came out of the research was also this need that the students, they want to see transparent action, and they want to know that there is equal pay on the agenda, there is promotion, there is transparency. So these things that you're mentioning, we know the students want to see, but it sounds like your commitment as an organization has been really, really stand out. Ray, from an HBCU perspective, have you seen an increase in a commitment or anything kind of evolve from your sort of firsthand experience?
Definitely. Well, to give you a little history, HBCUs have been around since 1837, and there are 105 of them. They are not going anywhere, and neither is Liberty. We need them, so we know we can't just show up to check a box, but we have to be methodical in our approach and to show up with intent to recruit this talent for our organization, as well as provide them with resources they need to enter the workforce at a high level. And our strategy that we have in place today continues to build upon those initiatives. It has evolved and will continue to evolve to align with our organization goals and DE&I talent objectives. So we started this work back in 2017, exploring various avenues to provide the organization with a diverse slate of candidates. And we've seen the opportunity to explore partnering with the HBCU community because we know that there's a great and unmatched talent there. So when we begin, we developed a strategy to increase our brand awareness because a lot of these students don't know who we are or what we do outside of our commercials because we're insurance, which is not the most appealing industry to the younger generation. And we're aware of that. So our early strategy really consisted of exploring a few schools and increasing our on-campus presence by participating in different events and getting into classrooms, but we knew we needed to do more. So the strategy has been improved with the development of new programs created specifically for the HBCU community. And we now have a full-time resource aligned, which is myself, who is committed to building upon our efforts and staying close and connected to these schools so that we can continue to be consistent year over year and build that trust that is needed to establish those genuine relationships with students. Because as Maura said, it's about that authenticity. And we know that, so that's what we're doing.
The authenticity of your work is coming through. Trudy Steinfeld just commented, it's authentic. And that's what people are looking for. Maura, I remember at the NACE HBCU Summit, you said, HBCUs want to know, are you interested in them? Are you invested in them? And I think you're really demonstrating. Ray, I don't know other companies that have a dedicated person to work with HBCUs. If they do, please let me know. But I think that's really unique and pretty extraordinary. Maura, can you talk a little bit? You've both referred to programs and a couple examples. Can you dig in deeper for us on some of your biggest learnings and successes related to diverse hiring and specifically HBCUs?
You're just on mute, Maura.
We had to have at least one of those, right? You're on mute.
There's more in 2021 than there was in 2020. Yes. I don't know what it is.
You're required on every LinkedIn Live.
Company.
Oh, exactly. So, I think, Lindsay, you just hit it, right? We can't just show up once and expect to make hires. It's an investment. We have to create these meaningful engagements, and we have to have the right people aligned to these programs who genuinely support our goals and want to be involved. We have looked at more of a deeper approach versus a broad approach when it comes to, programs, professional associations, and even, some of the schools where we invest or have sort of pulled back from because maybe there's the technology that allows us to actually go more broadly without spreading our resources too thin. And there's so many great schools and organizations to source from. But, I think at this point, we're fortunate that data has a lot to do with helping us make decisions on where we need to show up and play in the right space. I think, the one thing I'll touch on, and then I'll let Ray talk to you about a program with the HBCUs, but, in our early career space, we've been trying to access talent early in their education. So, in the undergrad space, freshman and sophomore, and in the MBA space, actually pre-MBA, so before they even start their program, through a series of Liberty Proprietary programs. So these are homegrown, 2 to 3 day programs that provide students with access to understand, the culture and the environment at Liberty. But then we also support them through the rest of their educational pursuits with mentoring, with sponsorships, with scholarships, in the hopes that, they actually want to stay engaged with Liberty and come intern with us and then ultimately, convert to a full-time employee. When we've seen the data tells us these programs are really working for us, and we've seen some great hires through these. I'm going to turn it over to Ray because she can talk about one specifically that she created this year.
Yes. So recently, I was a part of the development of what we have called now a new Liberty Proprietary program called HBCU Unite, which is a program that focuses on engaging all HBCUs, not just the top tier schools, because we know employers like to target those specific ones. But no, we wanted to target them all 105, because we know that they all have something great to offer. They all have unmatched talent there. So we hosted a multi-day conference in February, which is a part of this larger program that focused on celebrating Black History Month, but also was the start of us developing a long-term relationship with HBCU students who are early in their college career journey, freshmen and sophomore level. The goal is to provide them with the things they need to obtain success right out the gate upon graduating college. So we incorporated professional development workshops, which focus on teaching skills on how to successfully navigate their workplace, a mentorship program that will help build their professional network, and an externship program that will provide them with more insight into different career paths, with hopes to change their perspective and show them that they have a place here in this industry, and not just as a sales agent, which that is the role most of them are familiar with, but a career in areas such as investments, finance, actuary, analytics, technology, and so much more. So that's what we did. We successfully executed this conference and received the most heartfelt feedback from students that now see themselves at Liberty and having a fulfilled career in insurance. And we plan to do this every year.
I love that. We got a comment from Sally Hughes. From the University Career Services perspective, your authenticity is massive for really getting students on board to trust and to champion. Can you actually go a little deeper, Ray? I'm guessing you spent a lot of time with these students. I'm really interested. I've done a lot of work in the insurance industry, and it is challenging to get young people into insurance. There is, it's not Google or Amazon. How do you start that conversation? And in particular with students at the HBCUs, can you just talk a little bit about some of your interactions with students, what they ask, what you tell them? I'd be really curious about what actually happens and what makes them say, oh, I think I could see myself there.
Yeah. One of the best parts of my job is to talk to students, because, I've been there, I've been in their shoes. I can relate to them, especially in underrepresented groups. So when I often meet these students from these underrepresented groups, not just from HBCUs, but through student partnerships in which we establish at other institutions as well, they're not sure on how they fit into this industry, or even if they have a career in insurance could offer them, how could a career in insurance offer them success and happiness that they see in other industries? So, knowing that as a recruiter, I made it my responsibility to change their perspective so that we can have a chance at recruiting and hiring them, speaking to them, being transparent. One of the top questions I get from these students is, what do you like about Liberty? Or, what's the best part? Or is there a development opportunity? And I just share with them my real life personal experiences. And once they hear that and they see someone that they look like, they can relate to, that they connect with, and they hear that I'm invested in helping them get their foot in the door, preparing them in whatever way I need to for their interview, and, assisting and supporting them through their journey. Once they're here, they're ready. They're sold. They're ready to come on board. They're ready to do whatever they need to take to, whether it's apply, work with me to prepare for their interviews. But it's a matter of they want to hear it from someone that looks like them, that's there. If they don't see themselves at your company, and not just in any position, they want to see people that look like them in leadership as well. If they don't see that, then they don't see themselves working at your company. So it's important to provide that real life experience.
I just feel like the theme today is authenticity. It's about those real relationships, right? And that they can see someone and talk to somebody and have that conversation. Maura, do you want to weigh in on that?
Sure. I think, in going along those lines, I think that's why Liberty is so open to saying we have a lot of work to do still, because when students look across, the most senior leaders of our organization, it's not reflective enough yet, right? But we're getting there and we're doing the right things. And our leaders will step up and say that, we need this sort of new generation of talent coming in the door so that we continue to make improvements in our representation. And they're honest and transparent about that, and I think that helps create the authenticity too, because, you know, we want to show up as being honest to these students. We're not trying to sell them, you know, something that we get them into the organization and then we start to see turnover. You know, that's not going to help us. We have a lot of retention efforts in place too, for individuals coming into the organization. And that's all relatively new, you know, through our global learning and leadership development team. What does internal mobility look like? You know, what does mentoring for individuals in the organization look like? It's hugely important to our retention strategy as well.
Great to hear. I'd love you to share a little bit more, Maura, just around some of those development activities that you mentioned, because it's something that we've heard a lot about in terms of retaining talent, particularly diverse talent. And you hit upon a few there. Ray, I'd love you to chime in, but what things are you doing to really support them once they join?
Sure. So in the early talent space, I can speak to a little bit better, but it really is continuing with the mentoring and sponsors. While they come to us as interns or through one of our externship programs, they are aligned with individuals across our employee resource groups and, you know, at the MBA level, typically very senior leaders. And those relationships do tend to continue when they join us full time. Through our development programs, there's learning opportunities for, you know, leadership, for specific functional development, but then also generally they have sponsors across the organization while they're part of these leadership development programs. And for internal mobility, we're starting to see more opportunities for individuals to join in mentoring circles, to join, you know, our employee resource groups. We also have a wonderful partnership with McKinsey to develop Black leaders across our organization. I actually have 2 members of my own team that were recognized and nominated to participate in this program, which is a 6-month opportunity for people of color in the organization to really grow and develop in the leadership space, which is an incredible opportunity. Ray, I'm not sure if you have some thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. I can tell you one of the main things that, you know, jumps out at me when I speak to students and get them excited to want to come on board and stay on board is mentioning that we have continuing education reimbursement. That's one of the biggest things to them. A lot of these students are first generation students, and they struggle sometimes with the financial resources to even get their undergraduate degree. So Liberty is invested in, you know, providing resources for that, but as well as continuing their education. I always, you know, let them know you are interested in growing. You want, you know, a career, not just a job. And Liberty is invested in making sure you have that. They're going to develop you because you're here with the company for a year. You can go back and you might have, I know someone like myself, never seen myself going back to pursue additional education, but that's something Liberty provided and it's happening today. And when I tell them that, like, you know, it's there and, you know, they cover it 100% as long as you stay with the company, as well as you will constantly be developed and challenged and given projects to work on where you can build new skills. That's also a way that it retains our talent and it gets our future talent really excited to come on with us because they see themselves now, you know, achieving dreams that they didn't know how it would be possible. So that's another way.
I just want to say how impressive the link between the recruitment and the development is. And I think that that's something which many organizations, as they look forward, they need to be able to get that recruitment and development link. So it's incredible to hear. As you look forward now, kind of for the next 12 months, and I think we can probably go week by week. It's so hard to know what 12 months looks like. But as you think about the future, for DE&I within Liberty, are there certain things that you're hoping to focus upon? Maybe Maura, you'd share a little bit about that first.
Certainly. So I can think of, you know, two really big areas right now. One is developing a new scholarship program to help close the education equity gap. Ray mentioned first generation students. We know that it's a growing challenge for underrepresented students to afford higher education. And so we want to help in that area. And the other space is STEM. Right? So we continue to see this as such an important skill set in our organization and quite honestly, in all of our competitors' organizations as well. And we're recognizing that the demographics are much smaller when we think of underrepresented talent in STEM majors. And so how do we start getting students aware of these majors while they're in high school? So that's one of our next big pursuits when we think about the skills and the competencies we need in our organization over the next 3 to 5 years. And we're going to have to help build those skills from younger generations.
Yeah. Also, most of the HBCUs are located in the South. Liberty main office is based in Boston with additional hubs in Seattle and Plano and smaller offices around the country. Our focus in the past has always been to recruit diverse talent, but require relocation to our main office or hub locations. Well, COVID has changed that, right? The pandemic has literally forced us to reevaluate our recruitment model and adopt a growth mindset in order to compete in this job market for this talent. Competing for diverse talent today means meeting people where they are. So considering a majority of HBCUs are located in the South, we know that we can no longer expect them to want to leave their community, their support systems, and better weather for opportunity, especially since this pandemic has shown us we can be flexible and continue to function as an organization at a high level. So we're exploring remote opportunities and the possibility of creating hybrid offices in southern states that will allow our future talent to pursue their life great purpose right where they are or nearby. And so that's another way we are evolving.
That is so interesting. Bring liberty to the students rather than bringing the students to liberty. I think that's really progressive. Last question from me, Ray. What's the mood of students right now as we go into graduation season, as some are hybrid, some are remote, some are in school, from a well-being perspective, how are they doing?
They're nervous because, no one could have predicted this, but this is going to be the most resilient generation coming out of college. They have adapted in ways that no other, college graduates have. So they're ready. They are ready to just get in there because for the past now over a year and a half, they've been having to adapt to this, a new norm. So they are definitely taking their time in regards to they're more informed and interviewing companies back, making sure it's the right decision because they have those options now. But they are ready. They're excited. They know that they have the skills that it's going to take to adapt and be flexible. So they are, excited every time I talk to them.
I can see Nikki's strength-based leadership, alarms going bananas. I love it. I love the growth mindset. I love the strength-based. Maura, you've been in this business a long time. What do you see as the differences with the students today during this time? What's your observation taking kind of the long view, being with Liberty, for almost 2 decades?
Yeah, I have to agree with Ray in terms of the students that we're running into now are meeting. They are resilient. They're fatigued just like you and I are on these Zoom calls and not being able to hug loved ones and things like that. But I think they're going to come out of this much stronger. And I think, quite honestly, we're going to see the shift in sort of, when we saw the shift from Gen Xers to Y, now we're in the digital natives, but I also think these are going to be just such strong workers wanting to really prove themselves, and get in there we're going to see an increased work ethic in this generation. I think that, is coming out of the COVID era, definitely. And I think that's a really positive thing for organizations. There's going to be a lot of innovation, and a lot more agility and flexibility. that should help organizations too. And quite honestly, it's going to help us recruit.
Thank you both for tremendous insights. To summarize some of the things that have been in the chat, the authenticity that you've shared and that Liberty is clearly demonstrating is incredible. Also the transparency. I know we wanted Ray to tell us all about strategy, but my goodness, I think you're persuasive. I'm kind of like, where do I apply? You've got amazing superpowers, definitely beyond just the HBCU strategy. It's wonderful to see. Thank you both for giving such practical suggestions. I do think Liberty is really doing some incredibly innovative work that many of the people listening to this series will be picking up hints and tips. I hope you kept some secrets that you'll share again in 12 months from now, because you're clearly very creative. Lindsay, final word from you, and then maybe you could also let us know about, in a fortnight's time, 2 weeks' time, the speakers.
Yes, Maura, Ray, such a pleasure. LaToya just noted the time flew by. So much detail, so much learning, so much positivity, which is kind of hard to come by right now. So I really appreciate your approach and your authentic investment in HBCUs. I think a lot of people are just realizing how much talent is there, and you've been doing this for a long time. So thank you for your work and your support. 2 weeks from today, on Friday, April 23rd, we have the US-UK Early Career Smackdown, as I've decided to call it. We have, from the United States, Sean Vanderzeel of NACE, the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And on the UK side, Stephen Isherwood of the Institute for Student Employment, ISE. Obviously friends and colleagues, but we are going to talk about the similarities and differences in the early career space across the pond. So very excited for that. And Maura and Ray, just thank you so much. Nikki, final words.
Just huge thanks, and we'll look forward to part 2. We definitely want you back. So thank you. Have great weekends, and thanks everyone for listening.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.